Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining. Let me start with a quick introduction about myself and then we can begin the presentation. So my name is Aviel. I'm located in Tel Aviv. In my day-to-day, I really love to trade cryptocurrency and to practice yoga and meditation, usually on a daily basis. I have 7 years of experience in incident response and threat hunting, monitoring cyber attacks, comprehensive forensics, memory endpoint, network forensics. I established the incident response services in one of the Israeli telecom company, planned defense strategies, attack simulation, incident handling, and lately I've created the threat hunting domain in cyberproof. What we're going to cover today is actually a really brief introduction to threat hunting and what does it mean, what the definition of it. And then we're going to deep dive into how you can create your own practical plan. We will demonstrate a little bit about the state of mind or the way the hunters should think during the day-to-day job. And we're going to deep dive into, the in-depth guidelines that they should follow in their job. So let's deep dive into it. If we're going to talk, if we're going to present, the threat hunting in general, threat hunting actually means that we are proactively looking for whether it's a malware, a campaign, or a new campaign that started lately. Basically, we are assuming that the infrastructure is already being infiltrated. And that's why the hunters are just seeking for the infection evidence or the forensics evidence to prove or disprove this hypothesis. Threat hunting actually it's a new discipline in the cybersecurity world. It's not coming to replace the standard SOC activities. Actually, it's come as a complementary approach, complementary discipline. To provide, the proactive approach in every aspect of the SOC activities. Let us deep dive into the 3 key elements that is needed in threat hunting, and then we can understand how to create it in your environment. So a well-planned threat hunting program actually combines those 3 key elements. The first of all is the knowledge about your infrastructure, about your organization. What are your crown jewels? What are the baselines, the network, or maybe the endpoint baselines, the privileged account, working hours, and etc. We will talk about what information is needed regarding your organization. The second key element is the actual content, whether for adversaries or the attack. I mean, we're talking about to realize which attacking group might target your industry or your environment. And when they do so, what will be their intention? How they will get into those, crown jewels that we defined in the previous phase. We would need to understand in the technical level what exactly they are going to do, which techniques they're going to use in order, to realize what forensics evidence we are looking for. And the last key element is the actual data that you can provide for your hunters. Here, we encourage you to verify and validate that all of the data is well parsed and get into your SIEM platform, because this is the main platform that the hunters is gonna use. Here we are talking about the variety of logs, Active Directory, firewall, proxy, IDS, IPS, DNS, everything that can be, leveraged for the hunters to explore. Okay, so those are the mandatory 3 key elements before you start your own program. Let's see how can you create your own practical plan. After we realize those 3 key elements, let's focus on 3 parallel streams you need to form in your organization just to gather this program. So we're going to focus on the people, on the practical plan itself, and we're going to talk about the holistic approach that is needed. Let's start first with the people. I know that at the beginning, when this new discipline has emerged, those proactive activities or the threat hunting activities actually was being done by security analysts, which is okay at the beginning. But if you want, a well planned program, it should be handled by a dedicated team of experts with highly technical skills. Now I will obviously discuss what skills are needed. But what I want to focus on is that the proactive activity cannot be done, just 1 hour a week or 2 hours a month. It has to be a full-time job. Eventually, we are trying to reduce the attack surface, and this is not an activity that can be done just 2 hours a month. So that's why we are really focusing on a dedicated team of experts to work on the proactive approach, a full-time job. Soon we will understand exactly what they are doing. But we want to focus also on their technical skills. What is it needed? Actually, what the hunters should know. First of all, let's start with forensic skills. Network, endpoint, memory, they have to understand all the technicality of the forensics in order to realize which forensics evidence we are looking for during each hunt and during each technique. Obviously, along with the forensic skills, we also need a really good knowledge of the operation system internals, how the internal of Windows is working, Windows or Linux is working, because this is the main core of the hunter's work, to explore the data that comes from the operation system internals. And one of the last technical skills is also the ability to identify which forensics evidence is related to which attack, to pinpoint to a very specific event ID. I think that these three technical skills are actually very needed and mandatory. But I think on top of that, we need the hunters to have the state of mind, the ability to take every information and leverage it into a hunting workflow or into the proactivity approach. We will deep dive into those sections and what exactly is needed in a blog that we're gonna publish in the upcoming weeks. So please stay tuned for that. I hope that so far you get a feeling regarding what technical skills is needed for those people. Moving to the actual practical plan, here we will need, first of all, as we mentioned before, we will need to validate coverage. We will need to see that all of the mandatory logs are actually within the SIM that we would need, because we cannot hunt, without following a specific hypothesis or without having the data that we eventually want to explore in. So first of all, we will have to validate the log coverage. And then we're gonna create the baseline that are relevant for your organization, which means, who are the privileged accounts, what can be considered as network baseline, which protocols are communicating in your baselines. And in the next slide, obviously, we're going to see, some baselines, some examples of this. But you have to first realize what are the baselines in your organization. After you gather your thoughts around the baseline, and then we can move forward to discuss the multi-layer plan. Also, I will elaborate in the next slide, just to make sure that we see hunting as a multi-layer plan. Actually, it can be done from various angles of the proactivity approach. So let me also elaborate on this in the next slide. I want to move forward to the holistic approach. Here, Obviously, threat hunting is just one discipline out of the entire SOC, but you must understand that the holistic approach or the proactivity approach is actually what makes you as one strong entity, meaning that your entire SOC will have to collaborate together because one lead from one team can be actually formed into hunting hypothesis for another team, and the result of this hunt can actually benefit the third team. So you do see that there is mandatory collaboration between all of the teams within the SOC. Also, we mentioned that the hunters, one of the technical skills that the hunters should possess is the ability to drive proactivity in every aspect of your work, obviously, but on specifically when we are talking about security, you will have to leverage um, intel that you get in order to do more proactivity actions. And the last point is actually don't hold back knowledge. Eventually, someone else in the community or someone else in your team or maybe other teams can use this knowledge in order to create more detection rules. And as much as we can, make our defenses even stronger using knowledge collaboration, it helps us defend even better against the attackers. So those are the three parallel streams that we most focus on when we are creating a threat hunting program. I want to focus and give some examples regarding the baselines, just for you to get the feeling or what is needed when you create your own baselines. So I won't go over all of this data, but I just want to take examples or just a brief introduction to what baseline means. So if we are starting at the environment level, we want to see what are the operation systems running, which domain name, name convention. By the way, I really find it to be very useful to detect anomalies because the CISO or the organization or the security team actually can know and can reveal the name convention for everything within the organization. But attacker adversaries that comes from the outside don't know the name convention, or hopefully don't know the name convention in your organization, which help you actually to detect anomaly in username convention, endpoint servers, and etc. As we mentioned, we have baselines in network, applications, endpoint users, basically choose the subject and trying to realize what you want to know before you start the hunting. Because as you go on and explore the data, eventually you will find the same data over and over again. So you want to make sure that I've watched this already. So this is okay, and this protocol is not or unique or common. So you have to understand what is common in your organization in order, to detect the anomalies on top of that. So those are just a few examples. I hope you take some tips from here. Let us move forward to the multi-layer plan after we realized what are the baselines for your organization. And then we can discuss the multi-layer plan. Before I start, I want to give three items, three important key elements in this plan. First of all, it has to follow a predefined hypothesis, what we call hypothesis-driven. Um, Hunting cannot go without an hypothesis. Basically, we will need to form what we are looking for. We will have to gather an hypothesis around a specific technique, specific campaign, assuming that if the attacker would use this technique, what would be the infection evidence or the forensics evidence to prove or disprove this hypothesis? This should be the way that the hunters are thinking. We do have a different stream and a different workflows for having hunting without an hypothesis, but I won't get into that subject yet. The second line, which means the plan must stay generic and yet environmentally customized for your organization. Obviously, you have to detect, the easy stuff, persistence using schedule task and registry key, boot logon, and stuff that are very generic to every attack that we see commonly. But your plan must still be kept environmentally customized for your organization. You have to understand what are your security risks and answer those security risks using the threat hunting program. So even though it's very generic, it's still customized for your needs, for your security risks that you identify. And the last line, that the program has to be structured, and yet it must remain modular and adjustable. And also I will explain how it can be done, because at the beginning of the year or at the beginning of the quarter, you have to plan your hunting activities across the next quarter or the next 6 months or 1 year. You have to know what you are about to look for, and yet the program must stay modular and flexible in case that something else pops up and you wish to focus on a different technique. Now I will explain what are the exact layers and how it can be gathered together to form a very holistic approach for this new discipline. So let's start with the very basic and common hunting activities. Here we are talking about the IOC retro hunt, taking an IP, taking domain hashes. I guess you know those kinds of activities. You can take those kind of IOC and look for them within your environment just to make sure that nothing's was communicating outside. You also can provide some easy query, easy hunting query for your security analysts in case that they have incident or new campaign, and you just want to make sure that the adversaries haven't spread to the rest of the network. If you want to vindicate the rest of the network for this specific incident, so also you can have some basic hunting activities that you can provide to your tier 1 or tier 2 analyst. I call it very default activity that should be done in every organization. Now we're going to talk about the next layers. So first of all, we have the the intelligence-based hunting. We call this as predictive hunting or cautious, just to make sure that an intelligence report on a new campaign that runs in the wild, just make sure, the hunters should make sure that this campaign is not running within your environment. So we are taking the lead from the outside, from the intelligence report. It could be external or internal. We are taking this lead. We are forming the hunting workflows, and we're trying to gather our thoughts. What would be the forensics evidence to prove or disprove the existence of this technique within your environment? So this is the second layer that we have in this multi-layer plan. Moving to the next one, here we are conducting a post-incident activity. We are taking the major incident. We recommend for you to take major incident from your environment, drill down into the incident report, and try to realize what would be more forensics evidence for you to look for in your organization to make sure that this incident haven't spread to the rest of the network. Also, we can elaborate in this layer in the upcoming slides. On top of these three and very basic layers of the hunting, we also have the MITRE-based hunting. Here we are calling this the ongoing plan. At the beginning of the quarter or the beginning of the year, we should plan in advance what would be our prioritized techniques to hunt for every month or every week. It really depends on your resources. But basically, we should identify your gaps in the micrometrics and form a hunting plan dedicated for each technique at a different time or a different month or a different week. So it really depends on you. But this layer, we are calling this the ongoing plan that must occur, recursively and very structured in timeline. We have another layer of the anomaly hunting. Here, it's much more customized for your organization based on the baselines that we created one phase before. After creating the baselines, we can assume what is the security risk. We can assume which security product wasn't beneficial enough in stopping the incident. Therefore, we can assume what would be the attack vector or where the next incident can or will occur. So that's why we can customize these anomaly hunting dedicated for the security risk we mentioned in the baseline. We have to understand where are our the weak links in our security posture, and then to hunt for them dedicated. Those are the five layers, and on top of that, we have the complex hunting project. Those are long-term plans we can hunt for, or maybe get ready for ransomware attack. As a proactive approach, we can, maybe deploy some deceptions or decoys. It can be memory within. It can be hunting using the memory, which is also a very complex project by itself. And this is basically how we see it in Cyberproof, that we have a different layer or different angles of the proactivity approach that can be done using, a very structured threat hunting program. Let me put all of this information on one table. It might be at the beginning very overwhelming, but take a look and try to realize what we are forming in our vision. Basically, we are scheduling all of the hunts in advance. At each month, we know exactly what to hunt for. We are scheduling at different layers at a different time based on your needs and based on your security risks. Each time, for instance, each time that you see an incident starting from a phishing campaign, then you can run a dedicated hunter for spear phishing to see whether your email gateway are misconfigured, or it can be, in other cases, if you see a communication in one of the incidents, you can hunt for other CobbleStrike indications, or you can hunt for a C2 communication in that case. I want to give you just a really conceptual multi-layer plan across the entire year, just to realize that we are addressing every security risk that you need in your organization. We are putting a different angles every time. At first, maybe we'll want to focus on intelligence, just to make sure that other campaigns that running in the wild cannot affect your organization. It could be, forming a very structured plan for your technique, which technique to hunt for every month. Here we schedule just one technique per month, but obviously you can form it based on your resources. It can be 3 hunts per month, it could be 5, 6, it really depends on your resources. I just want to give you, a quick overview of the grand plan, how to create your own practical plan. You just need to adjust it for your needs. Moving forward to the holistic approach, here we talk that a lead from one team actually can be leveraged, and the result of the threat hunting team actually can be used by other teams. So here, a really quick example of how we do it in Cyberproof. We have the intelligence team giving us intelligence lead regarding, outside campaigns. It could be forensics coming from an actual incident from one client. We can take the malware and drill down into the malicious properties of this malware and hunt for those properties within other clients or within the rest of the network, just to make sure that the malware haven't spread. When we do find a potential breach, we are passing this to the SOC analysts for their investigation, and they can give us more leads to hunt for a different techniques or different kind of the incident. Obviously, that our work is very combined with the SIEM expert. We're using them. We are helping them to create detection rules. Also, we are trying to automate as much as possible from the hunting work using the use case factory. So you see that there is a collaboration between all of the team, because one lead from one team can actually be beneficial for the other teams. So this is the way we recommend to work, obviously. So if we want to summarize, those are the actual action items that you can take from this presentation. First of all, find experts with the right skills. We did discuss it, and we're going to publish our blog in the upcoming weeks. So you have to find your experts with the right set of skills, as we mentioned, to have a dedicated team work on the threat hunting program, and not just as a ad hoc, or just 2 weeks in a month. Sorry, two hours in a month, because eventually it won't be as beneficial as it can be. So this is regarding the people. Regarding the practical plan, validate that you have all the coverage of the data you want to explore, and of course customize the baselines as needed in your organization. Realize what are the common stuff, and by that you can detect the unknown stuff or the unique stuff. And then you can create a multi-layer plan, which is from one hand structured, and yet it's still adjustable in case that something changes or you want to put your hunters focus on something else. So this is regarding the practical plan. And the holistic approach is actually the shift in state of mind that we need to have within the SOC, because eventually we would like to encourage SOC collaboration. We did mention the benefit of it, and share knowledge, because eventually this is what we can leverage from one team to another in order to drive productivity in every aspect. Okay, so now I would like to present some examples of how the hunters should think during their day-to-day job, just to demonstrate what is needed, what are the state of mind or the way of thinking that is needed in the hunter's job. The first example that I present here is actually incident-based hunting. This is one of the latest emotet campaign that runs in the wild, and this is an example from an incident report that I mentioned. I saw during this incident report that the malware name here is being generated out of a predefined hard-coded list within the malware itself. Each time the malware chooses two different names and form its malware name. So having just this lead from the intelligence, it was really easy for me to create this really quick Python in order to create all the 400 possibilities for the malware name. And actually, the threat hunting team, we delivered this list to the SIEM experts. And that's how we created a detection rule based on intelligence report, even without them mentioning this. So this is the way that we should think during our day-to-day work, how to leverage every intel that we found or come across in order to create a proactive approach out of it. Let me move forward to the next example. But before that, I guess we need to give just a brief introduction to BOOTKIT. BOOTKIT is a kernel mode malware that actually modified the startup code for the master boot record, the MBR, which called also the boot sector in the drive. It actually enables the malware to have a persistent in order to run every time that the computer boots. So this is just a quick introduction on BOOTKIT. In this case, actually, it happened few months ago. We have a lead from the intelligence telling from the dark web, actually, telling that one of our clients might have been infected with BOOTKIT. Obviously, we delivered this to the client, and the threat hunting team was asked to do our job. So basically, this is what we did. And it was a remarkable work of collaboration between our intelligence team and the hunting team in order to detect this kind of threat within the environment. So basically what we did, we formed an hypothesis that how can we detect modification in the MBR? So we addressed the client, we asked them to give us the golden image. This is the actual image that every host in the network is being replicated from. So this is actually the source image of every other endpoint in the environment. We took this golden image and we composed a hash just for the 512 first byte of the drive. This is where the boot sector relies. And by composing this hash, basically we said this is the correct MBR, and now we want to make sure that the rest of the endpoints in the organization have the same hash, has the same MBR as the golden image, just to make sure that no one modified this sector in the boot. So we ran a script using PSExec just to make sure that, I believe it was almost 10,000 endpoints. We ran this script just to make sure that all of the MBR are correct and are the replica of the source image. And then we identify actually 2 endpoints that was anomalous in this hunt. One of them actually was a false positive because the IT guy wanted to have a dual boot. He wanted to have Linux as their operating system. That's why he changed the MBR in order, to load the Linux instead of Windows. But the other host actually was the same malware that the intelligence team reported few days ago that this organization might have a bootkit within one of the endpoints. And obviously we validated the result, we passed it to our security analysts, and they remediated the threat. They eliminated this endpoint from the network. And actually it was a really great collaboration between everyone in order to detect those kinds of persistent, which is very hard to detect on other ways. Moving to just a last example that we have in our day-to-day job. Here we're going to talk not about intelligence-based hunting, whether on incident-based hunting. This is a project that we had from one of our clients. After a ransomware attack that they experienced, they want to make sure that there isn't, leftovers, so the attacker can't come, as a second wave of the attack. So we actually read the entire incident report. We gather all of the IOCs that are relevant for this campaign and all of the other techniques that this group is used. We confirmed this information using sandbox, dynamic, and static malware analysis. We created Yara rules. We hunted for those IOA that we found. We deployed another Snort rules. In the IDS, we created many additional detection rules. Basically, what we're saying is after the incident is over and everything is contained, there are still post activities or proactive actions that still can be done in the environment just to make sure that we are validating the environment integrity. So this is just another example of threat hunting activities that can be done within your organization. Those are just 3 examples, just to give you, how the hunters should work. Let me drill down into the actual guidelines of what needed from them to do in their day-to-day job. So this is an example actually from a few days ago, from October. Those are the guidelines that we are publishing for the community, and I want to show you what this article is basically based on. Every month, we are taking 2 different campaigns that were major campaigns in the last month. In this case, we took the Hive Nightmare and Bazaar Loader, leading to Conti ransomware. And for each campaign, obviously, we are explaining just a little bit about the threat, correlating the MITRE technique. But eventually, we are drilling down really quickly into what infection evidence should be looking for in order to detect those kinds of threats. So here we are mentioning look for this event ID and look for that execution and monitor for this and that event ID and focus on the scene in that sections, or in EDR, focus on a different section. Basically, we are giving the hunters the technical guidelines, how to create the workflows to detect this threat. Obviously, if we have some script or mitigation steps, detection rules, Yara rules, and etc. Basically, we are forming the work for the rest of the hunters, or for the rest of the security incident, for the security analysts, sorry, to follow a very dedicated technical guidelines how to detect each malware or each campaign. So this is something that we share. You can also can get into our website and look for other guidelines as well. And I think if we can summarize the entire subject, is that threat hunting actually enhances proactivity and holistic approach in order to benefit to the entire ecosystem. So far, the attackers has the upper hand during this battle, but I think that threat hunting is actually represent the good defensive capabilities, or actually the great defensive capabilities that we can leverage in order to fill this gap. So far, the attacker was with the upper hand, but threat hunting activities actually flip the coin, and it helps us to fill this gap. So the adversaries and the defensive side will have the same capabilities eventually. I really hope you enjoyed it and you learned some stuff from this presentation. If you have any questions, hit me up. And I guess that's it from my side. Back to you.